Hear the bones snap, that raw wet crack ricocheted through the almost empty Costco in Chicago's South Loop at 10:58 p.m., freezing every hair on my neck. The place should have buzzed with fluorescent boredom. Instead, even the pallets seemed to flinch. I was there because a Members After Dark pilot kept this warehouse open until midnight. I'm a 31-year-old ER nurse, mom to a colicky 8-month-old, and the only time I shop is after a 12-hour shift. Cheap diapers, no crowd, perfect, until the sound. I found it in aisle 6. A man 6'4", wearing a red Costco vest 2 sizes too small, was licking marrow from a severed forearm like it was a turkey leg. His plastic badge hung backwards, his right sleeve gone. Blood mottled the concrete. Adrenaline slammed me behind a pallet of tortilla chips. My phone had no signal. Concrete and steel make a fine cage. The forearm hit the floor with a slap. The man sniffed the air like a dog and sing-songed "Saw you, nurse girl." I ran. Sneakers skidded over polished floor as I tore through seasonal decor. Behind me came the slap of one boot and one bare foot, uneven, shockingly fast. I ducked between 85-inch TVs, tried texting my husband, "Call cops Costco, now." Message lost in the dead zone. Footsteps stopped, then the PA screeched alive, volume maxed. Pigeon code bone cleanup. Nurse girl, aisle 8. His laugh poured from every speaker. I bolted again. Aisle 8 held the lone security guard, flashlight shaking. He whispered, "You okay?" The question never finished. A blur smashed him into a pyramid of sauce jars. Red shattered glass, sprayed like shrapnel. Teeth tore his throat before I could blink. I leapt over the dying guard and sprinted for the front, blocked by a waist-high barricade of carts, lashed with plastic wrap. He'd planned this. Only one path left, through the produce cooler to the loading docks. I burst through the rubber flaps, into foggy chill. Mist hissed from lettuce sprayers. Blood scent followed. Between banana boxes, the one-armed giant limped, still cradling the forearm like a microphone. "Need formula, nurse girl. Baby's gotta eat." My hands closed on a metal watermelon core as zip-tied to a display. I snapped it free. He rushed, teeth black with clot. I ducked and buried the core in his thigh. He shrieked, clubbed me with the bone, but I twisted the weapon deeper. He stumbled back, giving me just enough space to dive out to the docks. The bay doors shimmered with moonlight. I smashed the door 3 button. Motors whined, then died. Power cut. Wet footsteps closed in. I wriggled under the half-raised door, tearing my knees, and sprinted across the snow-dusted lot to my Hyundai. The key fob battery picked tonight to quit. I jammed in the manual key, slammed locks. Rear view mirror. Nothing. Engine coughed, died, breath fogged glass. Then a reflection slid into view. The man clinging to the broken rear window he'd just punched in. He grabbed for my hair. I kicked the door open, rolled onto ice, scrambled beneath the chassis. He tried crawling after, but jammed his shoulders in the shattered frame. I bolted to the tall lamp with the emergency coal box. Hit the blue button. Deadline. Wires snipped. He limped toward me, core jutting from his leg, holding the bone like a dagger. Voice sugary. "Got a crib in my truck. Need a mommy." Something in me snapped harder than cartilage. I ripped the steel phone cover free and swung. It crushed his jaw. Teeth cascaded like hail. He dropped. I swung again and again until the snow turned pink. Police arrived 7 minutes later, alerted when my stall text finally sent. They found the guard half-eaten, the real stalker stuffed into a dog food display. The one-armed cannibal had no ID, fingerprints burned. In his pickup, they found 3 infant car seats, crusted bottles, and a cooler of limbs on melting ice. Media dubbed him the Costco butcher. Cops called me a hero. I should have trusted the warning I got in the parking garage an hour earlier. As I rolled my cart toward the sliding doors, I noticed a rust-red pickup with no plates, flatbed hidden under a tarp, ratcheted too tight, hacksaw teeth, and bolt-cutter jaws poked from the canvas like bones through skin. Fatigue overruled caution. Free samples awaited. Inside, the warehouse felt like a cathedral of consumerism, fluorescents buzzing, forklifts beeping in the rafters, rotisserie chicken incense wafting through acres of steel shelving. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. I compared formula prices and stretched my spine in the paper towel aisle. The only stranger was a tall man restocking frozen pizzas, vest on backward, one arm tucked inside. I decided he was self-conscious about a disability. Now I know he was cataloging my scent. What chills me most isn't the violence, but the planning. He'd studied blueprints, severed call box wires, rolled the cart barricade, jammed exit alarms with cardboard. Predators thrive on the milliseconds it takes normal people to rationalize danger. In the ambulance, a paramedic glued the gash on my temple. "You're lucky," he said. Lucky felt like an insult. The guard and stalker were already zipped into black bags. Reporters howled beyond the tape, lenses glittering like compound eyes. Detectives asked if the killer said anything else. I told them about the badge, etched with NEX time, 2 arms. One detective said, off record, a similar scroll appeared after a Phoenix Sam's Club incident 18 months earlier. Unsub never caught, also missing a limb. 6 weeks later, CPS knocked after an anonymous tip, claimed I was unfit, traumatized, storing weapons near an infant. They cleared me in minutes, but I knew the phantom had tried to hurt me again, from the grave or through an accomplice. I moved apartments, switched to curbside pickup, anything to shrink my footprint, yet trauma boomerangs. This morning my neighbor invited us to her kids' party, held of all places at that same Costco food court. She laughed when I hesitated. "Come on. It's been 3 months. Lightning doesn't strike twice." Maybe she's right, but my phone now holds spare fob batteries, industrial pepper spray, and a habit of parking under the brightest pole light. Still, while typing this, I can taste iron and hear cartilage crack, and I picture that empty sleeve flapping like a victory banner as he limped after me, because bodies die, but hunger doesn't need a pulse. It only needs a door left half open in the dark. Second story. The eyes were still blinking, not in my hands, thank God, but on the polished concrete floor of the Boston Everett Costco, rolling lazily beneath the bargain bin of children's pajamas. One glassy orb stopped, iris up, reflecting a ceiling light that sputtered and died at that exact second, as if shuddering away from what it had just illuminated. It was 11:07 p.m., 15 minutes before closing, and I, Miles Kiefer, 34, night janitor, and failed stand-up comic, had already mopped the bakery, the rotisserie pit, and the restroom where somebody had carved "Go Home" in their own filth on the stall door. I thought the night had shown me its worst. Then the eyes dropped. They hit with a gummy plop that made my stomach crater. I looked up the towering shelf of bulk paper towels where a lone customer stood, a teenage girl in a green parka, face tilted skyward, mouth shaped like a silent ogre. She seemed completely unaware that her right eye socket was empty, pink and twitching, or that her left eye dangled by a ribbon of optic nerve halfway down her cheek. Something yanked her backward into the gloom behind the stacks. The optic cord stretched like taffy, snapped, and the second eye bounced after the first. I ran, slamming my mop handle across the emergency exit bar, but the alarm didn't wheeze. The door refused to budge. Red letters above it blinked in silent laughter. System offline. Overhead, the store's PA fizzed to life. A voice whispered in a childish sing-song I hadn't heard in 20 years. Kiefer. Come to the food court, Kiefer. My blood congealed. I knew that voice. Nathaniel Pincher, first bully of my life, vanished after 6th grade when his whole family burned in their Cambridge apartment. Hallway rumor said Nate set the fire himself. Impossible he was here. Yet the lilt, the rhythmic sneer, he'd called me Kiefer, 2 syllables, every day while smashing my glasses. My radio crackled. Miles, you hearing this? It was Karina, the lone closing manager, stationed in the front cage, counting cash, 10 years older than me, voice like gravel and coffee, but she sounded 7 when she whispered, I just saw a kid walk past security monitors with no eyes. I'm coming to you, I hissed. I sprinted past books, seasonal decor, and a stand of animatronic snowmen that waved as I passed. Fluorescence died in clusters overhead, plunging rows into strobing twilight. Somewhere metal rolled over metal, pallet jack or coffin lid, at the central intersection by frozen foods. A refrigerated coffin lid actually did slide open. Fog spilled over Haagen-Dazs cartons. A hand emerged, small, childlike, skin the color of tallow, nails chewed to ragged moons. It beckoned twice, then retreated, scratching the inside wall of the freezer like a dog at the door. Screams flared behind me. I spun as Karina barreled out from electronics, money bag swinging, mascara streaked to her jaw. There are more of them, she gasped. Little blind kids crawling through the vents. As if summoned, a vent cover 6 feet up popped loose. A pale adolescent head pushed through. Eyeless sockets weeping black mucus. Teeth too many and too sharp clacked together as it sniffed the air. Karina heaved her bag. Coins sprayed like shrapnel, caving the child thing's forehead. It hissed, slithered back, and the cover slammed shut. Loading dock, I said. Metal doors, real locks. We ran. PA child chorus chanted our names now. Karina, Miles. Near producer forklift blocked the aisle, engine idling though its key was gone. The seat was occupied by the girl from paper towels, now eyeless, slumped forward, parka, soaked crimson. Her lips worked like a fish, releasing a soft, wet whistle. Karina edged past, clutching my sleeve, and we hurried under her dangling shoelaces. The bakery display turned into a charnel house. Bodies hung from cooling racks by twine made of saran wrap. Employees, customers, maybe the late shift pharmacist. Their eyelids were peeled open, sockets stuffed with raspberry filling that dripped to the floor in gelatinous stalactites. Karina gagged. I pulled her forward. By the tire center we passed the membership desk, computers humming, though every monitor bled static. The TVs on demo looped a single shaky video, a line of children kneeling behind Costco carts, each child plucking out their own eyes with melon ballers. Voice from PA grew louder. We shared our eyes with you, Miles. Time to share yours. Karina cursed and grabbed a display baseball bat. I snagged another, my mob abandoned somewhere among the shrines of gore. We burst into the back corridor. Overhead lights here still blazed unnaturally bright. The pathway to docks stretched straight, but midway a figure blocked the hall. Nathaniel Pincher, unaged since 1999, bowl cut, Red Sox hoodie, freckles like rust. His eye sockets were black tunnels, his grin parted to reveal doubled rows of milk teeth. He held something in both hands, a jar, mason style, filled with cloudy fluid. Inside floated two familiar brown eyes. Mine. My stomach folded. Those eyes were mine. Almost. The irises had the same speck of gold at 1 o'clock. I touched my face, reassured by sockets, still full. Give them back, I whispered. He shook the jar. The eyes rolled like marbles. Debt's due, Kiefer. You laughed when I burned. Remember, I had laughed when the rumor spread. Sick thrill of justice. A childish sin returned groan. Karina lifted her bat. Nathaniel's eyelids fluttered, though he had none. The ceiling lamps popped in sequence, darkness sprinting toward us. I swung first, but my bat hit thick air. Nate flickered like film out of frame, and reappeared inches from my face, jar tipping. Fluid splashed my lips. Salt, vinegar, decay. I spit, swung again. This time wood met bone. A crunch, a scream. He fell, jar shattering, glass, brine, and my second sight scattered. From vent grates above, dozens of pale children poured, spider fast, nails clicking. Karina roared and swung like a lighthouse in a storm, each hit pulping one, but more came, crawling over siblings, mouths wide to bite. Nathaniel laughed, voice now old man and infant at once. He crawled, broken-jawed, toward my spilled eyes, fingerbones protruding through skin. I grabbed a bucket of industrial degreaser from the janitor's closet, ripped the lid, and hurled it onto him and the horde. The chemical reek ignited the air like ammonia lightning. Skin blistered, children shrieked, sprinkler heads sensed fumes, triggered a deluge. Instead of water, black resin poured, thicker than tar. It coated everything, clinging, hardening. Children froze mid-lunge, statues of screaming wax. Nathaniel howled as resin sealed his limbs, but his face remained free, contorting. Karina and I ducked beneath the flow and bolted, boots skidding on what congealed to obsidian. We reached the dock, slammed the door lever. Blessed outside air whistled as metal parted. A last child, tiny, eyeless, hung from the exit chain, clutching a melon bala. Karina crushed its skull with one war cry swing. We stumbled into the parking lot, breath steaming, sirens distant but coming. Behind us, Costco lights winked out section by section, until only the pharmacy cross-glowed red, like a closing eye. The lot was deserted, except for a single charter school bus idling under the mercury lamps. Its windows were blacked out with construction paper, crude eye holes sliced through each sheet. Diesel coughed from the tailpipe in wet spurts that smelled like roasted marrow. Karina tugged my sleeve. "EC, your car now." We sprinted toward my Corolla, but every vehicle we passed shared the same mutation. Rims dripping resin, engines humming like deep breathing, license plate letters rearranged to spell look. My own plate once £4 729, now read take. But jammed the key. The door skin liquefied around the metal, absorbing it. Handle vanished. Engine started itself. Headlights blazed, illuminating rows of the eye children crouched between cars, blocking every lane. They rose as one, blind faces turning toward us, mouths yawning wider than bone should allow. A klaxon bellowed behind, the bus door folding open. Inside, silhouette of a driver, cap, broad shoulders, impossible height. He lifted a hand and beckoned, same childish curl of finger Nate had used in 6th grade to summon me to torment. Karina whispered, "We run through them. They ain't got eyes. They ain't got aim." She charged. I followed, swinging the bat like a scythe. Children shattered, hollow as piñatas, leaking flakes of ash instead of gore. For a heartbeat, victory tasted possible. Then the asphalt under us rippled, softened, became that same black resin, sucking at our shoes. We slowed, children behind, knit back together, limbs ropey with tar. The bus honked, a low funeral horn, and rolled forward, tires crushing eyeless bodies with crunchy indifference. Karina screamed for me to keep moving. Resin reached her knees. I tried to yank her out. The substance clung like suction cups. She shoved me away. Miles go. The bus door creaked. Nathaniel stepped out, grown to adult height now, still blind, jaw hanging wrong from earlier crush. He dragged something behind, a canvas duffel rattling with glass, more jars of eyes. He addressed the horde, trade completed, new eyes for every brave volunteer. A cheer like chirping locusts rose. Karina spat over my dead body. Nate smiled. "It's that dear. His plan B." He produced pruning shears, blades rusted and jagged. He knelt beside her, fingers tracing her eyelids, resin crawling up her torso like a blanket. Snap. First shear clipped. Karina's scream became a raw gurgle. Snap. Second eye. Nate held them up, trophy gleaming. He tossed the orbs into the crowd. They fought like seagulls over bread, shoving cartilage into empty sockets where resin retracted. Amid the chaos, I spotted a roadside emergency kit strapped to a steel cart corral. Its plastic case had shattered, exposing a single red flare. I snatched it, struck its cap on cement, and the torch whooshed alive against the dark. "Hey, Pincher," I shouted. He turned, no eyes needed. I jammed the flare dead center into his empty socket cavity. Flame met ammonia-soaked flesh. His head blossomed phosphorus. He thrashed, resin igniting in spreading waves. Children shrieked as tar bodies, lit like coal. Bus tires caught fire. Diesel tank whooshed. An inferno swelled, reflecting in 1,000 borrowed eyes. I collapsed at the river's edge, vision swimming. That was when I saw the water ripple, and beneath the surface, dozens of pale faces stared up, sockets vacant, waiting. I turned away from the river. Across the highway, a grocery store's neon flickered alive, though the building had closed years ago. The sign cycled cost cuts, cost cuts, cost cuts, cost cuts, letters fighting for order. From the shattered front doors stepped lines of children, new eyes glinting like stolen stars, walking toward the embankment. Among them was Karina, led by Nate's charred silhouette, her cheeks wet with something thinner than tears. My legs refused orders. The first child reached me, holding out a dripping eyeball, mine, recognizable by that fleck of gold. "You'll see better now," it said in a chorus of small voices as it pressed the gelid sphere against my eyelid, thumb strong as vices. Everything went black. Third story. The ceiling was dripping blood. That was my first sight as I unlocked the massive steel fire door that separates the Seattle Sodo Costco warehouse from its dim back tunnel. I'd been hired as a temp night auditor, counting closeout inventory while the store was shut for a remodel. Double pay, lights on, cameras rolling, supposedly safe. I stood there at 11:46 p.m., barcode scanner holstered, staring up at a crimson patter that ran across the acoustic tiles, plopping onto a pallet of life cereal like thick rain. My brain insisted it was a rusty pipe. My nerves knew rust doesn't smell like pennies and meat. The store was supposed to be empty, except for Raymond, the senior auditor. Ray was a retired Marine who could bend a handheld in half if it misbeeped. He'd vanished into the tire center. I tugged my radio. "Ray, you seeing this leak?" Only his answered. I stepped around the cereal, boots squelching. Behind me, the door thudded, lock clicking. The drip slowed, as if realizing it had been caught. Flashlights sliced through canyons of shrink-wrapped pallets, remodel signs everywhere. Do not enter. Electrical testing. Good excuse for darkness. None for the silence. Halfway to groceries, a pallet jack blocked the aisle. Forks up, load missing. On its handles someone had tied a bow of gauze, white except at the knot, where it bloomed red. I thought of Ray's bandana. Scanner chirped, though I hadn't pressed anything. Screen read, line item, missing 001 eyes, then blinked to ready. I hurried toward produce, calling again. A tremor rolled through concrete. Rippling rap. Lights flickered. The PA boomed with a child's voice. "Attention members. Midnight samples in frozen meats. Come taste." I sprinted. At frozen meats, mist crept from open doors. Something bumped inside the walk-in. "Ray, if that's you, answer." The door creaked. A shopping cart rolled out, guided by no one. Its seat held 3 raw ribeye roasts, stacked like cheeks, each capped with a peeled human eye. The cart stopped at my boots. One eyeball blinked. I backed up, slipped, landing hard in a puddle of copper stench. A single footprint marred the slick, size 13, boot tread. Ray's voice finally crackled. "Loading dock. Help." Something wet choked the last syllable. I ran, passing jewelry, clothing, empty racks. Mannequins were naked, lined shoulder to shoulder, arms up. Electronics was a war zone of shattered screens, casting funeral light. Every display TV showed grainy security footage of the very aisle I stood in, but 5 seconds ahead, as if the building were predicting me. On the feed, I watched myself turn left, then in real life, felt breath on my neck. I spun. Nothing. The TV feed rewound, replayed, taunting, between rows of laptops. Demo speakers crackled with chewing sounds, wet, deliberate crunches that rose to fill the air like hail on tin. I yanked a plug. The noise hopped to another row, then another, until all 200 speakers played in perfect gruesome stereo. An iPad lit up with a survey prompt. "Would you sacrifice a hand for safe exit?" Yes. Yes. No option for no. Cold fingers brushed my ankle from beneath a pallet. I dragged a lamp cord to peek. A headless Kirkland teddy bear costume crawled out, stuffing leaking from its torn neck. Its paws were bloody gloves, each fingertip tipped with broken sample toothpicks. I hoofed it across the power tools aisle, snatching a framing hammer. The plush bear kept pace on ruined knees, squeaking with each bounce. I waited by a row of snowblowers, then smashed its skull. Polyester exploded like snow. Underlayer revealed a child's skull, nailed inside the costume, jaw parted in endless glee. In each plastic palm, the mannequins now held a membership card, the photos scratched away, names replaced with bite in oily marker. Lights died. Red strobes blinked at floor level. Between flashes, something crawled on the rafters, dragging rectangular shapes that clacked like teeth. A tail whipped out of sight. The smell led me to Ray. He hung head down from a forklift mast. ankles bound, torso opened from neck to navel. His scanner glowed item found, liver. The organ lay on the pallet, weighed and wrapped, bright yellow manager's special sticker. My scream echoed. Something answered from the ceiling, an eager chitter. I cut Ray down, wrenched his radio. It whispered more meat, fresh. Dock bay doors were padlocked. Beside them a catering table was set. Condiment pumps, toothpicks, spoons, a banner above read, "Sample the self." Metal shrieked overhead. A shape dropped, 8 feet tall, human-like, but elongated, skin quilted, from freezer, paper stitched, with staples. It wore Ray's face, like an apron, eyes vacant. In each hand it wielded Costco freezer dividers, edges honed to cleavers. It spoke in the PA child voice, members first, employees after. I hurled my scanner. It bounced. The creature lunged. I ducked, felt air split behind my scalp, and dove into the returned goods chute. I slid 15 feet, skin shredding on bolts, landing in the baler pit, atop cracked TVs. Footfalls boomed overhead. The chute dented inward twice. I climbed a ladder, emerging behind a cardboard compactor. Emergency stop glowed. Wires hung severed. Of course, the monster's head appeared, turning 180 degrees. Ray's mask flapped. Solvent drums, industrial acetone, lined the wall. I yanked a hose, doused the incline. The beast crawled like a spider. I struck a match. Whimpa! Flame raced up. It retreated, trailing fire that caught plastic-wrapped pallets, turning aisles into chimneys. I ran to the roof ladder. Sprinklers activated, but sprayed greasy red fluid. Boots slipped as I climbed. On the roof, cold air sliced smoke. Downtown lights glittered. HVAC shaft offered a way down. Inside, hundreds of membership photos lined the duct, faces sliced, written in condensation on a mirror. Scan complete. Exit approved. The rooftop hatch slammed. The creature, blazing, climbed up, cleavers molten, mask charred, wind-fed flames. I grabbed a vent grate, ripped it free. I saw barcodes tattooed across its torso. I aimed my scanner. Beam chirped, screen blinked. Book at discount app lead. Press pay. Reflex slapped the trigger. Checkout finale jingle echoed below. The creature hesitated. I drove the grate into its throat. Momentum carried us into the fan. Blades shrieked. Sparks showered. I rolled away as it was minced. The jingle repeated, slower, then died. Fire ladders rattled. Seattle FD arrived. As they hauled me down, I looked over the parapet. Flames painted the lot orange through a shattered skylight. The mannequins still held their cards, letters bubbling but readable. Thank you for feeding us. Come again. Weeks later, burn welts form a barcode across my collarbone. The doctor can't explain why every blackened stripe scans as $0 at checkout scanners, only that the beeps never stop until the lights are switched off.